to show to the public that as a governor, he wants to establish higher education in Hong Kong. And also at the end, as an Irish, he still has some, as an Anglo-Irish, a little bit refined. He's still a little bit imperial. So at that time, it's very common for people to find that Anglicization is equal to Civilization. So we all know it is not correct in modern days, but back at that time, as an Anglo-Irish,
咁喺嗰度亦都係參加去食佢哋啲即係盤菜啊、新年啊。咁我覺得呢一種透過節日傳統嘅節日可以凝聚，我覺得係好寶貴嘅時間喺百忙之中可以大家聚埋一齊。我覺得聚埋一齊唔係淨係講緊社區自己本身，聚埋一齊之後咧，其實係一種互相支持啦。我相信亦都係好難得嘅機會去思考我哋喺英國港人社區嘅未來。Thank you， 唔該。講嘢先。A drawing. But in fact, in the Old Testament, we have the Old Testament. So today we do drawing. The Bible teaching. A little bit letter, a little bit paper. Tell the people what Bible, what Jesus wants to tell you today. Jesus says today. It seems like a Chinese tradition. Yeah. Crazy is there a connection? Jesus says, catch the tree. Catch it. Jesus says, catch it.
You should try.
Yeah, crazy. You want to try?
Yes, try it.
Sure.
Try it.
Do you know how to use it? When you in Chengdu, you have used it before?
a long time ago, but you have to tell me again what I need to do.
You need to do is drawing, and one of them will come out with your prey in your heart.
Pray in your heart.
Okay.
Oh! Okay, this is the wrong word.
Oh no!
Very well drawn.
Somebody say this is not good when all the drawing come out. Hey, you may try. One of them will come out. Okay. Yeah, one of them. Oh! Oh, really? Try again. You be patient with your prayer to Jesus. A little bit of technique over there.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Hey! Oh! What's it? 喜樂啊！
Happiness.
Oh. Yeah, this one is joy. Encourage you to give your heart to Jesus. Let the joy inside your heart. Let all the atmosphere, environment won't do anything affect you.
Right.
Chinese tradition. In fact, it's an Old Testament tradition.
Right.
Crazy.
So have you been here all day?
So many people.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Until at 2 p.m. more people. Yeah, so many people. Hong Kong people. Maybe some so-called the foreigners.
Yeah. That's 15 minutes ago. Yeah. And then Timothy, my North Korean friend, is coming. Yeah. He's because he's coming to London
for 2 days, and he will stay with me. So probably quite soon he will come. I asked him if he'd like to come here. Yes. He's arriving from coming directly.反應咁樣樣，
反應都踴躍，因為其實我哋本身咧係冇遇過有咁多人喺度嘅。咁跟住咧主辦嘅朋友啊，佢哋就俾咗個位置我哋，然後咧擔咗啲凳喺度，然後我哋就幫病人咧就進行治療。
咁你覺得唔
好意思，等一下，唯一嘅地方我哋喂咁樣，唔好意思喎，唔緊要，你冇直播啊呢個，係啦。
咁我都想問一問啦，就你嚟緊仲會去邊一度？喺英國
嚟緊咧，暫時定點咧就係會再去伯明翰啦，會再上曼徹斯特啦，應該喺呢兩個城市再去睇一睇，因為我哋要了解下呢一度成個行業同埋市場嘅方法。
即係香港文化其實都包含咗中醫呢樣嘢。你覺得中醫呢個市場喺英國有冇話有一啲發展空間？
我自己個人覺得係非常有大嘅市場，原因就係因為咧英國嘅天氣啦，又濕又凍。呢一邊咧，其實如果大家搭地鐵都好清楚，上落樓梯咧，我都膝頭痛，膝頭咁容易痛嘅情況下咧，其實我哋應用針灸啊，用嗰啲補身啊、暖身嘅中藥去濕啊、化濕嘅方案咧，應該會係有一個好好嘅結果。
好，唔該晒你先。
其實最後一個問題啊，如果喺呢度做中醫，有冇特別嘅certificate 啊咁樣嘅嘢咁樣講？
其實咧呢度做中醫咧係要有牌照嘅，咁但係當然咧，我哋喺香港咧係已經有相關嘅學歷同埋經驗咧，其實係可以申請翻相關嘅牌照嚟執。
第二個問題我知道呢度嘅大學好似有中醫嘅課程，你對呢啲課程有咩評價啊？How do you comment on this kind of subject？
中醫嘅課程咧，其實喺呢個世界上面好多國家都有。咁其實除咗英國啦， 澳洲啦都會有相關課程，但係唔同嘅中醫嘅含量嘅課程咧，咁當然我自己個人覺得仍然都係亞洲地區嘅中醫教學會比較好少少。唔該晒。頭先阿運耀肥仔嚟，你有冇講問？
Introduce something about the need. To the camera.
you very much.
I might start coughing.
Yeah, you can just you can just start as you like. Yeah, I saw this art. When did you design this art? This work?
A lot of the work I did when I was 22 in 1985.
Where were you at that time?
So I grew up in Hong Kong, and I left Hong Kong when I was 14. Heartbroken. Being in Hong Kong is terrible. Especially I went to live in Northern Ireland in the height of the troubles. So it was a big change. But I went back to Hong Kong in 1985 because I went on a previous trip the year before, and I went inside the walled city.
So in 1989, were you in Hong Kong or in UK?
In 1989, I was in UK.
In UK.
Yeah.
So you're not there during the Tiananmen massacre.
Just watched it on the telly.
I saw that piece of work. I think it's just a normal Hong Kong living building, right?
It's actually the outside of Calgary.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of this work and my books are about Calgary.
Are you about that city?
Do you know Calgary? Yeah.
I'm from mainland China.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So,
You need to introduce.
I'll tell you about Calgary.
Okay.
It's absolutely fascinating. If I'm gonna... So, when Hong Kong...
Are you alright?
Yeah,
You can slow down.
Yeah. So, this is a children's book that I wrote to tell in essence, the basic story about Kowloon Walled City, which is a really fascinating part of Hong Kong. So when I lived there, it looked like this.
Yeah.
And it was a part of Hong Kong. It was a no-go area. About 60,000 people lived there.
Wow.
So a lot of people who came from China during the 60s and 70s, when they were looking for accommodation, maybe they didn't have the right to work.
Looking for food.
They moved to Kowloon Walled City. Kowloon Walled City started as a Qing dynasty.
Yeah. You can see that Qing dynasty.
Yeah. And then at the time of the treaty, when China loaned Hong Kong, they left the walled city out of the treaty. And so this was very near Kai Tak Airport. And they left the walled city out because it was a small, thriving, traditional city.
Yeah.
1 year later, Britain took the walled city by unilateral treaty.
Yeah.
So it became part of the rest of Hong Kong.
Okay.
However, the myth remained that this part was no man's land, that it wasn't owned by Britain, and that it wasn't really owned by China.
Independent between two authorities.
And we're talking about a place the size of this walled city. But by the time it was in the 70s, the landlords went in and built blocks with no regulations because they thought they could get away with it. Because they thought it was under nobody's jurisdiction. In fact, that wasn't true, but that's what happened. And also, when a lot of people came from China, they needed homes, and they could set up as dentists and doctors here, but they didn't have the right license to practice in Hong Kong. But they could practice in the whole city, and the benefit was that local people could get affordable dentistry.
Get money and be survived.
So it was a community that was unusual, but it survived, and it worked for a lot of people.
Is it very chaos or a lot of?
Well, because it was built not according to Hong Kong regulations for building or planning. A lot of the blocks were built very ad hoc. So somebody would build one, and then the next landlord would build one. So there were no roads, and some of the spaces between the buildings.
Narrow.
Very narrow.
Not even for a person.
Exactly, and very dark.
Yeah.
But shafts of light coming down.
Yeah.
So it's kind of incredible. So when I was a child, I knew about it, but it wasn't a place to go. I'm going to stop for a minute. Yeah.
Currently, how about this district now in Hong Kong?
So, I'll tell you what happened. It survived, and 60,000 people lived in it.
Oh my God,
It was
16,000.
the busiest, the most densely populated place in the world.
Oh my God.
But there were, there were all kinds of things happening there. There were these little exits in, and inside was like this.
Okay. Still full of very kindness and also home.
Absolutely, and lots
Sweet
of
home.
industry,
Yeah.
lots of good people, lots of things made there that went out.
See your
to the rest of-
whole smiling face.
Yeah, and lots of lovely families. And the roof, can you imagine what the roof was like? It's like a forest of aerials. And
It's been part of the Hong Kong culture now. A very important part of the
Yeah.
Hong Kongese memory.
it is absolutely that. So I went, this is a little bit about me, I went there
Yeah.
and I drew there. And the
Oh,
people welcomed me. And they stayed in my drawings forever.
you are Western people and you live a lot of. They're quite. I think most of majority of people are there. They are Eastern people, Chinese.
Yeah, all of
What's
them.
your feeling?
Well, they were so kind to me, and they know that my intention was simply to draw. I didn't want to intrude. I didn't want to do anything salacious. I just wanted to capture. It's really for the love of drawing.
Oh yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So, but there were fire risks. No doubt, there were fire risks. There were potential problems.
Yeah, of
And-
course. Yeah.
Before the handover,
Yeah.
they wanted to solve the problem of the Kowloon Wall City.
Yeah.
So it was demolished
Yeah.
in
All of the buildings are
yeah,
damaged.
all of it's gone. So
Okay.
and it was just left an empty space,
Yeah.
which has now become a beautiful park.
Yeah.
And the beautiful park has within it a bronze model of Kowloon Wall City.
Yeah.
And a lot of children come to visit. And it's a very peaceful place. So my view is that it was a colourful place. But that's why I've interpreted it this
Because
way.
that was a part of your childhood.
Yeah, but also the colour of the wall city, the colour comes in kindness, in busyness. It's not just visual.
Yeah.
And that's the end. And that's my little story about how the book happened.
Okay. And kind of why do you make this kind of artworks and why you make it? Just for yourself, a kind of a memory of for more people to.
I think any artist, the main reason why kind of has to be for the love of making the art about it. That's for the work to have passion and integrity and capture that thing. You have to love making art about it. That's what I say to myself as my reason why I'm drawn to Hong Kong. And Hong Kong and the Wall City is in so much of my work. I just love what Hong Kong is and was. It's a place of energy, colour, juxtaposition of old and new.
How about Hong Kong now? Would you like to make some comments on that?
Well, I hope Hong Kong survives with its feelings of safety. It's so important for people to feel safe. When you feel safe, I know it's just as a human being, in order to create and to love other human beings and to feel good every day, I've got to feel safe.
Yeah.
Whether that's in my
Security.
relationships, it's a feeling of safety. And I think Hong Kong has to achieve that the powers that be are all human beings. And they have to understand that people need that feeling of safety. That feeling of safety to be themselves and to be able to express themselves. So I hope we can get to that place.
And for the safety to live in their own ways, not just in the ways they were forced to.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially for young people, we teach our young people. I've got 4 children, and they're all grown up now. But my husband and I have wanted to teach our children to be themselves, to be passionate, to be caring human beings, but to also find their voice and to be able to speak their voice. So I think that's really important for young people, and young people need to feel that.
Yeah. Especially today's young people. As a maiden of China, I'm from maiden of China, and talk about this kind of situation with Hong Kong young people and the maiden of young people. And before the Hong Kong events, I saw these people, young people, quite similar. But after that event, I found Hong Kong young people are more responsible, and they are willing to take the responsibility for the society and for the nation. Yes, that is really encouraging me.
Well, it's really interesting. When I left Hong Kong age 14, I went to live in Northern Ireland, which was in the middle of a war.
Oh,
Yeah. There was terrorism.
Yeah.
But when I came to London, a lot of very, savvy, woke people thought they judged Northern Ireland without really knowing, and without understanding the DNA of the people and what they carry with them. And it used to frustrate me how people judged Northern Ireland without listening to all the sides of the story.
Yeah.
And I think this is true with Hong Kong.
Yeah.
There are many sides to the story. There are many reasons why people are quiet and move forward, or why people fight. And that's in the DNA of the people. And I think everyone needs to be listened to, just like they did in Northern Ireland. The peace process is about listening and bringing people together.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are doing some live broadcasting here now. And would you like to say something in front of the camera?
We get to support Fiona. We think, it's wonderful.
Fiona, okay. That is your friend.
Fiona's his mum.
Oh,
His friend.
Okay, so you're coming to support? Yes. Oh, you're cool, man. Come on. Are you a college student or your... About the singers and the music. Do you understand it?
There was a Pink Floyd song in there somewhere.
Cool, have a good time, mate. Right. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. 你哋離近一點，讓人聽不見。Why are you here today?
I remember visiting Hong Kong in 2008, which was the year of the Beijing Olympics, and I wish I had gone back sooner because so much has changed in the last couple of years. I would not recognise Hong Kong now for the place that it used to be back in 2008. So I would love to almost turn back the clock and go back in time a little bit to see Hong Kong as it was maybe 5 years ago, physically. But I have lots of fond memories of Hong Kong in 2008. I remember watching the football on the Olympics in Van Quai in a pub called the Whiskey Priest, an Irish pub. So I really enjoyed being there at that time. So I miss it, but it's great to be here today because it reminds me of what Hong Kong was like those years ago. And it's some very good memories for me. So I'm grateful to see everybody here just enjoying the history of Hong Kong.
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Eddie.
Eddie.
Yes, I'm a photographer in London.
Photographer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, hello everyone. Can you hear in the back? Hear my voice? Okay, perfect. I will translate to Cantonese a little bit first. 後邊聽唔聽到講嘢啊？廣東話聽到 ？OK， 你等我等啊。Okay, testing. Okay, I will first deliver my speech in Cantonese, and then I will recap in English. So, 好多謝大家今日嚟到香港開埠181週年嘅慶典啦。咁亦都係我哋今次香港 Museum 嘅第一次喺英國喺倫敦搞嘅展覽。咁過去8年，我哋都喺香港做過唔同嘅一啲開埠慶典啦，包括我哋有時會租一啲巴士啊、電車啊，甚至乎喺一啲古蹟嘅 ballroom 入邊，我哋都會有搞過。咁今次係第一次嚟到英國嘅地方啦，第一次嚟到倫敦去搞啦。咁個體驗係幾有趣嘅。咁希望大家其實頭先都係行得開心啊，同埋係都中意我哋今日嘅一個展覽。咁事不宜遲，我而家講下我今日想同大家講嘅啲乜嘢先。大家諗開埠，可能你會去諗就係係咪啲好殖民主義嘅嘢，係咪一啲好帝國嘅嘢咧？咁點解我哋作為香港一個唔再係理論上唔再係英國殖民地嘅地方，點解我哋仲要慶祝呢個開埠日，甚至要叫佢做 Hong Kong Day 香港日咧？咁其實我哋去睇翻香港開埠嘅歷史，我哋有2個最主要嘅原因，就係點解我哋需要記得呢一日。咁第一就係香港開埠固之然係為呢個商貿原因啦。咁但係呢個商貿原因背後其實就係打通咗呢個東南亞同埋東亞之間嘅一個連接，而香港就係中間嗰個連接點。咁而亦都係因為建立咗香港呢個地方啦，將一啲現代嘅知識，包括可能係宗教啊，包括一啲科學啊，甚至地理天文嘅知識，由香港傳到去東亞其他國家，包括我哋今日成日提到嘅中日韓3個國家。咁我哋再落到去香港作為商貿，仲 connect 咗啲乜嘢地方咧？咁其實我哋講緊喺香港對落嘅澳洲啦，甚至我哋再西少少嘅馬來西亞啦，以前同香港係一個黃金三角嘅一個貿易關係，亦都有好多文化嘅交流。咁其實香港嘅定位正就係唔同世界之間嘅連接位，呢個就係香港開埠嘅第一個最重要嘅意義。咁而第二個意義係啲乜嘢嘢咧？如果你嘅祖先係水上人，或者你有認識到任何嘅朋友佢嘅祖先係水上人嘅話咧，你可能都會聽過一個故事，就係其實水上人喺呢個英清戰爭或者中國會叫做鴉片戰爭嘅時候啦，呢啲水上人香港嘅原住民 係幫英國去打仗。咁呢啲原住民去幫英國嘅時候，換取到啲乜嘢咧？就係換取到當時開香港埠嘅義律爵士去承諾會俾啲水上人脱離賤民嘅身份啦，去解放呢啲俾傳統呢個中華社會去壓迫嘅一啲原住民。咁佢哋具體嘅故事咧，你都可以上翻我哋嘅網站嗰度睇啦。咁但係其實我哋正可以睇得到就仲有水上人呢樣嘢，你就會見到究竟點解我哋要慶祝開埠？呢一日唔係一個殖民主義嘅顯現咧，佢雖然某程度上係為一個建立一個商貿嘅據點而出現，但係同時喺另一個角度都係代表一個解放、一個自由、一個屬於香港人嘅自由。Now I recap in English for my speech. When we think about the Hong Kong Day, the founding of Hong Kong, there are many people who think that this is a very colonial concept or there is some imperialist idea. To be honest, this is no doubt to clarify that Hong Kong was once a British colony. But what we are celebrating or what we are remembering about the past, about Hong Kong Day, is not because we are worshipping colonialism. What we are celebrating is indeed the birth of Hong Kong and what is meaning behind. So, what is this about for the founding of Hong Kong? What is this happening in the 26th of January 1841? It is not something about colonialism. It is not something about simply building a colonial trading port. But more important thing that it has two main and very serious reasons that the British choose Hong Kong and the British built Hong Kong. So for the first part, of course, it's about business. But when it developed into a business port, it's not only for trading. It's somehow connecting different worlds. For example, the Southeast Asia and the East Asia world to become a bridge on exchanging their values, their ideas, or even trading. So when Hong Kong established in the past 181 years, Hong Kong keeps spreading its values learned from both the British side and both the Cantonese sides to spread our knowledge and spread our values to other nearby countries. For example, China, Japan, and Korea. And another part why we have to celebrate Hong Kong Day if you are very proud to be a Hong Kongese, because our indigenous people of Hong Kong, if you heard that, there is some certain group of people called the Tankarina. They are the indigenous people of not only Hong Kong Island, but if you see the Lantau Island, the Kowloon Peninsula, and also there is some village in New Territories such as Kastupi, New Town, or Otaio. So these kind of villages, they live many indigenous people of Hong Kong, but they are being enslaved by the Chinese Empire, whatever which dynasty is. They are being enslaved for 1,000 years. They do not, the authority do not allow them to live on the land. They do not allow them to have freedom of marriage. They do not allow them to have the rights of learning, even how to write a script. So this is very important for the indigenous people to get back their rights, to get back their freedom. So what is it happening in 26th of January 1841 when the British flag first flight on the island of Hong Kong? The 10 days later, the indigenous people of Hong Kong start to enjoying their freedom, and they have the liberty to choose where they live, where they receive education, who they want to love. Right, that the Tankarina dream for 1,000 years. So, on the other hand, what we can see in Hong Kong Day, what is the meaning behind is the liberation of the indigenous people. So for us, the Hong Kongese, even we may not all from the offspring of the Tangalator, the indigenous people, but we both share some of their cultural aspect. We both share some of their habits, like we like to eat seafood or other things made by seafood, and it's kind of their culture. So by sharing their cultural aspect, we shall still celebrate the day that they get liberated. So that's why we have to celebrate the Hong Kong Day and to refine our history and to reconstruct a more objective and more Hong Kongese approach on interpretation of our history. So keep your Hong Kongese spirit and say no to the Sinocentrism. Keep your Hong Kong spirit. Thank you so much. 最後我想重複翻英文最後嘅嗰句 slogan。我哋今次搞呢一個展覽同過去8年都係同樣地有一個目標，就係想宣揚翻香港人係應該用翻一個香港本位嘅思考去講翻香港嘅歷史、香港嘅文化、香港嘅故事。我哋唔應該再係跟翻戰後香港流行嘅一個中環本位嘅思考。咁佢哋的確有佢哋嘅 agenda， 但係作為一個香港人，作為一個愛香港嘅人，作為一個身為香港人而自豪嘅人，我哋去講我哋嘅歷史嘅時候，係好應該，亦都有能力去用翻我哋自己嘅本位，我哋自己角度去講。香港從來都係一個文化混血兒，我哋唔係中西混合，我哋係粵英混合，我哋係粵同埋英，呢個唔好搞錯係中同埋西，因為我哋講自己嘅歷史、自己嘅文化，唔應該再受到過去戰後流行嘅中華文化去鉗制住我哋嘅思考啦，去捆綁我哋。我哋應該敢於為自己呢181年去糅合、去誕生嘅香港混合文化而自豪。多謝大家。
Thank you for the opening speech by our host. So for now, for the following time, we will have Mr. Benedict Rogers from Hong Kong Watch to deliver a speech for us today. Ben, please.
I want to thank you. Yeah, I'll just bend down. I have a height problem. Well, I can just take it out. Okay. Great. Good evening. I want to start by greeting you with Hong Kong San Yot Khai Lok. It's a privilege to be with you tonight, and I want to really congratulate the Museum of Hong Kong and everybody who has worked so hard to organize this very special event. I'm really impressed by the range of stands that you have and the different cultural and food and historical items that are here. And I just a short while ago enjoyed some curry fish balls, which was really delicious. Like many of you, Hong Kong was once my home. Of course, for many of you, it was your home for your whole life. It was where you were born. For me, it was my home for 5 years. It was the place where I began my working life. And it was the place I went to straight after graduating from university. And like many of you, I cannot go back to Hong Kong now. And even for me, having only lived in Hong Kong for 5 years, I feel incredibly sad about that. So I can only imagine how those of you for whom Hong Kong is really your home, how you must be feeling. And given the dark times that Hong Kong is in and is facing, happy birthday seems a strange greeting because things are very far from happy. But I think we just heard in the opening speech a reminder of why we mark Hong Kong's birthday. To remember the values that have made Hong Kong such an amazing place and such a
success and the values that I know Hong Kong people have fought for and continue to fight for. And even while it is so difficult, almost impossible, incredibly dangerous to continue that fight in the city, I know those of you here and your friends like me will continue that fight for the people of Hong Kong. So I just want to say how glad I am to be here. Because I can't go back to Hong Kong, this feels like the closest I can get to have curry fish balls and practice some Cantonese and hear some good Hong Kong music. So I want to end. I know that tonight we're celebrating Hong Kong's birthday, but next week we will celebrate Lunar New Year. And next week is, we welcome in the Year of the Tiger. I was actually born in the Year of the Tiger, so I'm looking forward to this next Year of the Tiger. And I hope that the characteristics of the Year of the Tiger, especially the characteristic of courage, will sustain all of us in these difficult times for Hong Kong. So I want to conclude. I know it's a little early, we haven't started Lunar New Year, but in anticipation of Lunar New Year next year, I want to say, Chúc Ngọc Hoài Hong Kong Yang, San Nin Phai Lok, Phu Nin Sum Song Si Sing, Ping On Gin Hong, Jun Wing Guang Guai Hong Kong. And Quang Phúc Hong Kong, Si Dai Gat Ning, Dai Yao.
So I will pass the stage to the host of this event altogether, and they will give a toast for now to celebrate Hong Kong's birthday officially in front of the flags.
好我冇咪咁，所以我盡量大聲少少。I first speak in Cantonese and then switch back to English. So 再次歡迎大家今次嚟到開埠181週年嘅一個慶典。咁我哋而家呢個時候咧就係 official 去祝翻香港生日快樂。咁希望大家今次嚟到我哋嘅慶典都 enjoy 今次嘅體驗，亦都明白到香港人每一年雖然有好多日子要記得，好多唔開心嘅日子，我哋一定唔可以忘記。但係喺同時，我哋都最少有一日係開心，係屬於我哋日子嘅。咁我首先我而家講一講英文先。So once again, welcome everyone to come to our celebration this year. So Hong Kong is already 181 years old. It's a bit old for many countries. So what we hope that is even Hong Kongese have many days that we need to remember, but those days are very sad and we shall never forget. But at least we could have one day that we can remember happily. We could celebrate happily. We could celebrate together. And this is today, the Hong Kong Day. Thank you very much. Happy birthday to Hong Kong.
Uh, 我哋三個或者我哋本身開頭去傾呢單嘢嘅時候咧，係打緊邊爐嘅時候傾。作為一個協辦嘅即係角色啦，因為今日點解係協辦咧？因為坦白講，展品全部都同我冇關。咁但係我之前喺香港有搞 NGO 嘅經驗，或者有搞 event 嘅經驗，例如以前喺香港喺銅鑼灣嘅人權嘉年華啊咁嗰啲，咁我嗰陣時係有參與，咁所以我可以將個即係經歷啊，或者係將啲經驗或者 pattern 可以擺喺呢一度。咁確實我哋本身今日係冇預到咁多人嚟。 我哋本身今朝開頭估幾多個人咧？500內啦，係啦。咁我諗我哋去到3點幾就已經打破咗呢個人數，呢個人次。咁啊，我哋即係雖然冇一個撳機嘅統計，但係我咁樣目測以過往遊行嘅經歷點人數，我相信應該過1000嘅。咁已經係以前係我哋嘅 expectation 嘅幾倍啦，係咪？係啦。咁點解我哋當時預期嘅人數咁低咧？就係、咁我哋即係一開頭打邊爐嘅時候，就好多唔識嘅人啊一齊傾下啦咁。咁有啲即係一齊傾啊，或者係一齊 brainstorm 嘅朋友就話1月26號今日星期幾啊？各位，星期3閒日咯嗬。我哋幾點開始啊？2點零3點啦，係咪？正常大家喺香港呢個時候吹雞，我不論你遊行又好，搞嘉年華都好，一定冇人嚟啦，係咪？如果喺香港，但呢度唔同。因為我哋嘅團結好強，所以我哋今日我諗有幾多人請假嚟咧？我想問，有冇人請假？我係請假嘅，同公司請假嘅嚇，或者大家都唔使翻工啦，係咪？呢段時間係咪真係 hea 下先係咪？咁其實同埋即係佢都話啦，1月26號天寒地凍，冇人㗎，倫敦咁樣。咁我同佢就即係當時當然一路飲酒就話，喂，咁樣係咁潑冷水唔得喎。結果我哋就死搞難搞，開頭就係搞展覽嘅，之後話展覽太悶啦，不如搞下啲 market 咁樣啦，揾啲嘢賣下啦，揾啲嘢食下啦咁。咁你最尾今日大家滿唔滿意先？今日我哋響 Brand 呢一個地方度搞，唔係 Central London。如果過幾個月我哋響 Central London 搞，大家會唔會嚟？如果我哋喺 China Town 搞，大家嚟唔嚟？咁到時真係冇得計啊！
咁就我就係回收我 Hong Kong 啦，今次嘅主辦啦。咁再次多謝大家今次一齊嚟香港開埠呢個慶典。希望剩翻嘅時間，我哋仲有係啦，我哋去到9點嘅。咁我哋都仲會有2個活動分別可以俾大家參與啦。就係我哋8點鐘，我哋會有一個英港鬼故事比較啦，咁就會喺後邊你見到一間 room 嗰度，我哋會開始嘅。另外就同樣地8點鐘，我哋都仲會有一團嘅展品導賞。咁如果大家有興趣嘅，都可以去參與翻呢啲活動，或者你中意嘅 feel free 自己行。咁多謝大家今日抽空嚟參與一個閒日舉辦嘅慶典。我知咁樣係一個好難得嘅人數，好難得嘅數字嚟嘅。再次多謝大家。
準備結束啦。
呢個名有水準咩？好接啫嘛。我真係好想。咩啊？有乜分別啊？有乜分別啊？我就好撚熱。
應該這個嫩了。啊？
that if he provide a chance for them to modernize and to have a chance to get integrated into the Hong Kong society along with the European, the Jewish, and other like Indian, Pakistani, or the Italians. So at that time, he provide an integrated education reform for the Hong Kongese people, and which starting from that point in the 1880s, Hong Kong started to develop its own Creole culture, which is mixed between the local Cantonese and the British culture, British values in the majority aspects. So after the Hennessy era, we goes a little bit faster to the 1920s. What 1920s have in Hong Kong? So if you enjoy watching films, you think about that films is only something new invented in late 19th century and early 20th century between this period. But in Hong Kong, we already introduced films in the late 19th century, but at that time it's a very luxury stuff. People cannot afford to watch it. But 10 years later, in the 1910s, for working class, middle class already have their own center of cinema to watch their film. So take an example. For the middle class or the upper class, we established a cinema or theater called the Victoria Theatre. A fairly signature name for the upper class. But for the lower class, what do we have? At that
Stop. There.
Empire Theatre. But in Cantonese, we do not directly translate empire into 帝國, which means empire in Cantonese. But we make it in the similar pronunciation, but loan the English words into Cantonese. We make it empire. So it's a little bit sounds like empire. So at that time, the poor people or the working class would go to the Empire Theatre to watch the film they like, and it is very affordable in the 1920s. And after that, after watching films, what we usually do is to having some fancy food, or we having some like traditional local street food, something like that. So in our case, like in Britain, we have many cafes, we have many coffee stores, we have many tea houses. It's in a very similar context. In Hong Kong, we have a very traditional restaurant we call 冰室. 冰室 literally means ice house, but what is actually is a Hong Kongese cafe. So more like in an Australian way of cafe house rather than a British style, because we are closer to Australia more than Britain. It's far, far, far away. So if you have a chance to travel to New South Wales, there is a town called Newcastle. It's the same name back in Britain. So there is a cafe called Embassy Cafe. It's established in 1940, and that exactly the same decoration as the Bing Sat back in Hong Kong. So same decoration and similar food, and like we have some custard tart, but in Hong Kong custard tart make it a little bit smoother and less sweet. And with our Hong Kongese milk tea, if you have a chance later on today, you may have a taste of our Hong Kongese milk tea. But for the Australian, they are more technical. Yeah. So for the food part, we already have